everyone. Welcome to the IT Collab podcast. My name is Brendan Barnes, and my co-host
Nathan Taylor.
Nathan's here. And today we are joined by Ken Yao. He is founder of Cyberse, Cyberse. I just want to make sure I spelled something out right. People didn't know, right? And you're out in LA, right? Because we're mountain people over here in the great state of Colorado. Ken, if you could, please indulge us with a little bit about yourself and your experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Nathan, for having me on. Nathan and I met just through some of the conference stuff. And, we're both very passionate about this space of being able to help companies with their cybersecurity needs, especially making things more accessible and simplifying cybersecurity for the SMB world. So a little bit about me. I grew up in California pretty much my whole life. I have two cats, but more professionally speaking, I started my career at Deloitte in their cyber risk practice. And then after a couple of years, I went to Booz in Hamilton, where I was part of their cybersecurity operations team and ended up building some of our capabilities where we were serving Fortune 500 companies and being able to kind of scale cybersecurity operations and build repeatable things that were deliverable at the enterprise level. So ultimately, about 8 years into that, I was a part of a divestiture where we sold our managed security business to a private equity-backed portfolio. I was part of putting that deal together, leading some of our large enterprise accounts, and it just was a great opportunity to build a business for us and to expand what we were doing. So I went over as the head of strategy for a company called Deep Seas, which is a managed security service provider, along with the PE backing to go out and acquire a few more service portfolio companies. So I did that for about a year. And then after a while, I kind of saw a pattern and an opportunity to, hey, how can we solve this problem more at scale? What can I do to build a platform and something that's meaningfully impactful to making the lives of cybersecurity practitioners better and also saving everyone some time so that we can get on with our lives? That ultimately led to me founding Cyberse. So Cyberse is a cybersecurity marketplace. It's an expert-led community, and we also have decision enablement tools built in to help accelerate and drive and solve for the procurement problem in the cybersecurity world. Our mission is making cybersecurity more universally accessible and just try to be helpful and, working with across a broad ecosystem of partners and customers.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, we were talking about this on a previous episode that, navigating cybersecurity is complicated. And we've had this conversation actually in multiple episodes. So I think back to when Chris Jensen was here with us. One of the conversations I've had repeatedly with Chris Jensen, who's a VCIO, is he said to me, "Hey, Nathan, you're more technical than me. You're a little bit deeper on some of this technology stack. What is the minimum viable security stack I need for my 500-person companies I'm working with? Because Arctic Wolf says they'll do everything I need. CrowdStrike says they'll do everything I need. KnowBe4 says they do everything I need. What do I need? And how do I figure that out? And how do I make sure I'm not missing something?" And this is a very, very experienced, very seasoned VCIO. And then you've got, all across the space of, small business owners going, what do I need to take care of my company? So, it's a lot to navigate. There's best of breed products. Do they integrate? All that sort of thing. So kind of tell us like some of the challenges you're seeing in that space.
Yeah, I mean, I think you outlined the problem space really well, and luckily your VCIO friend is well established. So there's three places people start in this conversation that I've seen. Number one is phone a friend. Number two is Google, and number three is Reddit. Right? Like there's only so much you can do out there right now, and I think like we're in a great age where like AI is trying to help us find the right answer faster. But at the same time, it's still a combination of those three areas where you have to get enough trust and credibility, and you have to understand the process. And ultimately, it's a personal bet or it's a career decision. When you go out there and you say, "Oh, hey, I want to go down and purchase products." So one of the expressions that's out there that I'm sure we've all heard before is, "No one gets fired for buying IBM," and that's
Yes.
the problem that we're trying to solve for, right? Like I don't think people should be fired for, again, trying to figure out the best solution, and it should be done in a way that's more accessible and easier. So very much so like building and simplifying the process along the way and leveraging all the tools that we have available to make it so that, it's much faster and cheaper and ultimately the mission is to help security, but also understand the business constraints and the balance that needs to take place.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So, Ken, I'm more intrigued. What did you do? Like, you worked back in maybe big business, or what was your first job? You said you worked for enterprise business.
For Deloitte, yeah, all consulting actually for the most part. So I have some
Really?
background in finance as well. I'm an econ major, which I highly recommend. I think econ is a great way to think about things, but I'm a little bit biased there.
No, that's good. But what did you do in the enterprise level? Like, how did you consult there?
Well, I mean, first off, kudos to, my previous employers for all of the training and the opportunities of, helping someone develop and build skills. Yeah, I mean, for Deloitte, we were really focused on just like, hey, how can we do these things in a repeatable way? And that's very large scale, for very large, you're a part of a very large in projects. I found my niche
Right.
in an interesting way of, I didn't come in as the most technical background person, like I wasn't a computer science major, or at that time there was no such thing as cybersecurity majors. So, we were all just kind of like figuring it out. Um, I joined in terms of being able to, hey, I can organize stuff. I can communicate. I joke and say my one life skill is PowerPoint. And that's probably still roughly true. So like my biggest skill here is PowerPoint and maybe email. I'm pretty good at email too. Like I'm really good at getting those like really tight, nice bullet points out there. But
Right.
being able to solve the business problems and the communication problems, then also just it's I don't like to call it translation because I think it's actually the same language, but it's just having that ability to communicate and help people understand as well as putting in the time to do so. So that's the biggest things for me in my career. What's helped, it's just you got to put in the time. And I've always been in kind of that position where it's like, hey, I've built a strong reputation for delivery. A lot of my team knows that I'm putting in the time and the hard work to get there. And it's just very much, I think, the big thing of the security world, especially the services world of security. It's all about just like who are you working with and how much do they really have your back, and can you see eye to eye and trust them in the world.
Right. Right. Um. Okay. So that leads on to my next question. We talked about maybe some pain points for the small to medium sized business out there that don't understand security. How is it that your translator helping them get to what they need to know, or in the cybersecurity realm?
Yeah, I think that's a great question to it. And in the world of SME, I think it starts with listening. You have to like just understand what are their priorities from their business, right? And being a startup founder now, I feel it even more keenly of just like, okay, I was on vacation for a week and a half, this past month. I was like, well, I have to run payroll. I have to like take care of like any legal questions that come up. We have investor emails and things like that. Like, there's no one else to do it, right? And that's kind of what's top of mind, and those are the most important things that are it's yes, we follow like good security practices, but is that really what like runs my business? Outside of the fact that I'm a cybersecurity company, no, right? Like I have to run a business, I have to work with a team, I have to deal with a lot of those things, and that's not even talking about life, right? Of like marriage, kids, whatever else is out there. There's just so much to it. So it starts with listening and understanding what the priorities are for your customers. And it's really hard to do at scale, right? Especially for service providers and companies that are focused on IT, or if they're focused dedicated on security. I'll do that at scale because you have so many people, so many relationships, and they're so contradictory. So being able to really just like, again, find that right balance in a sense, and, finding the right partners to help enable that. And that's really what, I strive to kind of solve for and make easy for everyone.
It's interesting because in our last conversation, we were talking with an MSP owner, Chris, and we were talking through how the decision gets made on what security product to buy as an MSP is very interesting, right? Because it might start with, can I buy it from a distributor like Pax8? Can I get the billing into my billing system? What's margins I can make and what's it cost for my customers? We haven't talked about any technology. We're literally talking about back-end transactional layers. And then does it integrate with my RMM? Does the ticketing integrate with my PSA? These are all terms and tools that we use in the MSP space for how we run our business. And, then is it multi-tenant? Can I manage it efficiently across multiple tenants? Do I have good, do my technicians know it? And so from an MSP or service provider, oftentimes the decisions on something like security software are made from very different spaces than somebody in the mid-market who's trying to solve technology problems. But they also are wrestling. You already mentioned it, that price is like number one, right? Like before we're talking about whether it works, there's a price conversation, which is interesting. But it's more complicated than price, because the thing I also run into in the mid-market is you have tools. Now you're wondering if they're working and if they're the right tools, right? I've been in a lot of customers that they're like, I've got this SIM provider and I've got this antivirus, and I have no clue if we're any closer to being secure, right?
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned the minimal viable security stack earlier as the concept. And the other concept that I hear a lot about is the security poverty line, right? Like, so, okay, how
Mm.
threats, how do we make sure that like, I talk about the bear analogy where, when you're chased by a bear, you don't have to be the fastest runner. You just have to run the others. So that's a little bit of security. Like the idea is like, let's stay above the benchmark. Let's stay up in front of the curve. And that's the reality of what people are dealing with in their businesses. And again, going
Yeah.
back to like, you have to understand the customer's priorities. And, in a lot of cases, what I've seen and, firsthand in being an MSSP provider, you're not really positioned and the best person to answer that necessarily, right? Like that does have to be something that's, you know, thought of from truly the client's or the customer's perspective of what is in my best interest, what is like my biggest thing. And again, it's a complicated topic. It's hard to figure out. And it's also just, again, in the world today, it's all very expensive. So doing our best to find
Yeah. I've always liked the term, like I love these frameworks. We got
it.
CIS top 18, cybersecurity framework. They're really valuable because they help everybody, including the Uber nerds, be detailed and organized in covering security, because it's easy to take care of the things you like and the things that are interesting and leave the front door open, right? You got the most amazing firewall in place and you got the best endpoint agent, but you don't have MFA on admin accounts on
Yeah.
365. Why bother, right?
Yeah.
And so I like the combination of, you got to start with a pragmatic security of just like, what are the basics? What are, like you called it, the poverty line or the minimum viable product of, do you have MFA? Do you have EDR? Are you, whatever the layers are, you have to start with that basics. And then the framework becomes really helpful after that. Of, okay, now how do I tighten things up? So I agree with you. I think there's a real value in wrestling through, helping people think that through. Let me ask you some questions. Let me listen to your responses. Let me take my experience and my understanding and apply it to this scenario.
Yeah, no, exactly. And again, listening, tailoring to the environment, it's all so very hard to do at scale. So that's again the problem here of like, okay, I break cybersecurity into actually two problem sets. One is awareness and the other is activation. Awareness is again just this wild thing of like, oh man, there's so much noise, so many things going on. Hey, I need to be compliant, I need to do this. And then activation is okay, now that I'm aware, like how do I make a choice? Right? Like what's the right choice? How do I defend that choice? That takes, again, the trust and credibility to activate and to go down that path. And I think the key goal for all of us is, we have to be better about knowing how to meet our customers where they are in their journey. So sure, sometimes they are at an awareness stage or sometimes they are at an activation stage. And there's all of these resources out there that, we as an industry can help point people to and direct. And I think it comes from also just like understanding the incentives and being able to align the incentives to enable better security.
Yeah, for sure. Um, One of the questions I had for you on that line is, what do you think is the outcome of all of the consolidation that's happening in our space, right? Like vendors are falling left and right as they get consolidated into these more monolithic stacks. What
Yeah.
are the pros and cons of that? And how are you seeing that impacting the industry?
Oh man, it's a big topic space of it of like, and I have both like emotional answers as well as more like rationalized answers to that of I'll even start with kind of the emotion of like I think it's kind of sad, like I think we as an industry have incentives aligned where it's hard for new companies to appear and to come out. Like we're already pretty good inside. Like we're definitely privileged in the industry. Like, hey, cybersecurity, everyone needs it. There's a lot of noise about like, in the startup world, the VCs
Yes.
care for security. However, like, the way that our systems work, again, going into this like purchasing process as we've defined it today, where people look on Reddit, they talk to, people they know, and they talk to, and they Google. When you Google, you get ads. When you look at Reddit, it's all the products that are existing and out there, and not so much the new products. And when you phone a friend, it's the same thing, where all of the connections and things point them to the same existing big companies. So it's a David and Goliath case where like a lot of these smaller new companies, even if they do solve the problem, like it doesn't matter,
They'll
because the
get bought
moment they
out.
come up with a new acronym or Gartner says they solve it, oh, so does CrowdStrike, so does Microsoft, so does everyone, and then they drown you out with the noise of the marketing. And kudos to them on the business model, like, oh yeah, this is recorded, like kudos to all of that. But I think
Sure.
it's a bit sad, of like, hey, that a bit stifles the innovation of like, how do we really understand and have a meaningful conversation into the real problems and pushing that. And I think it starts with the enterprise there, because the enterprise is the group that has the money and the impetus to really go out there and discover these products and to work with these companies. But it's becoming harder and harder, because as we get like these kind of big, like investment backed,
Monolith.
yeah, monoliths, exactly. It's harder to like have the unique factor come through.
Yeah.
So, generally speaking, for the customer, I think it's great. Like that would be my flip side of it before, I'm just all doom and gloom and sad about it. I think for the customer, it makes sense. It's simpler. You can just go and, leverage Microsoft, and, that covers your endpoint, your email, your identity, and your, analytic type of solutions and security. If you're already a Microsoft house, then that makes total business sense, because as we talked about, it's about the dollars,
Yeah.
about the cost. But, hey, you as a company should still understand that that's Microsoft's play, and there are other viable answers out there, and there are things of maybe you just need this thing to get to the next stage. And it comes back to, how do we meet that customer wherever they are in their journey and give them the tools and the information to make the right activation decision.
Could you give me an example of how you would do that?
How I would do that?
Yeah.
I mean, on Cyberse, we're building out the tools, and it's all giveaway, right? Like, so
Right.
what I used to get a lot of in the consulting world was like, hey, what's the best SIM tool? Can you do a SIM evaluation for us? Can you tell me, like, review my security awareness program and tell me the best things I need to do, people process technology? That was, to answer your question earlier, which I didn't properly answer. That's what we do in like the enterprise consulting world. Then they take our brand and our logo, and they're like, oh yeah, look, see, they said so. So what we're doing at
Third
Cyberse is
party
we're
said so.
actually, yeah, because we said so. What we're doing at Cyberse is we actually leverage AI and automation to do this 10 times better, or mathematically it's 9 times better. Let me think. 9 times better. Uh, we want to be able to scale this, and we give away all the information about, what are the best tools and products and services out there. Feel free to go to the website, look at the categories we cover, and look at the way that we review the criteria. It's all very transparent, and it's all like we're not incentivized to push any sort of product in any way. Um, and then we basically use that sort of data set, and then we provide, again, assessment tools and information out there. Right now, we have something called the Navigator, which is free. It just, fill out 20 questions. It generates a report for you of where to start in security. It tells you your score, and it tells you how you compare against your peers. And you just start from there, have a conversation, reach out to people and talk. And that's really the big thing of, I really strive to make myself available to have conversations and to just help understand where people are in their journey. As we're rolling it out further, our next tools are things around compliance. Like the MMC compliance is going to be a big deal in the US space for anyone in the, DoD supply chain. Other things that are big
Yeah.
deals for the customers we work with are, as I mentioned, Microsoft security rationalization. It's okay, hey, like I have all of these licenses. I need to have an awareness program. I'm trying to become more, insurance ready. Microsoft's always advertising to me. I'm at their conferences. They're telling me all these cool things. Is it true? Can I do it? I was just talking to another gentleman this morning, and he was talking about like, yeah, it's the art of the possible, right? So we help customers explore the art of the possible with what they have as, an via their MSP, via their MSSP, and we figure out what are the best solutions out there and the best viable path for them forward.
How are you guys leveraging AI in your platform? Because I think AI is this topic that's just all over the place, right?
It is, and it's like really exciting to see and like to just have those working sessions and how we're using AI. Um, Again, I was just summarizing this for one of our investors, just talking about, hey, like here's what we're really excited about towards the AI stuff, and I very much believe we have this amazing set of use cases where it's super applicable for our work. So I mentioned the marketplace component and the research. So research is a big part of what we do, independent back research, including leveraging tools like AI. But we always use, human in the loop and industry experts in order to like validate and say like, hey, this is the case of, what we've seen. We're creating kind of the 10x analyst is essentially one of the concepts there of how can we do this leveraging AI, again, still with the human in the loop, but have it in a way where it's so automated, the data collection's there. All we're doing is asking for little bits of tweaking and feedback to understand like what's out there and, what's the best way to present information to help customers in their journey. And then the other part is, we're building kind of the data model as well. So taking the information we have and being able to benchmark against various, industries and sizes of different companies, we're able to say, well, this is probably what the other guys running away from the bear look like. So this is how you can have a profile that makes you faster than the guy running away from the bear. And, just moving the needle the right way where we give them the recommendations that make the biggest impact for their security. So in
Awesome.
AI buzzword terms, I should say prompt engineering, AI modeling via RAG, well, as data modeling that we're building on ourselves. So it is all of the above, and it's very much like we're in the game of seeing where AI takes us with this. There's
Right.
also the components of like AI for security, security for AI, which are topics that are near and dear to me. I think we're a little bit different in it because Cyberse is a marketplace. So the marketplace components, the community components of the tools are actually very interesting applications of AI for cybersecurity. Not in the sense of like, hey, I'm becoming like I'm automating away a SOC analyst, but in the sense of I'm trying to solve the business decisions and making them more efficient. It's all very back end, which is what's really funny about it. I've had this philosophical debate with, AI experts like, oh, can we use a chatbot? Should we have a button that says AI? I'm like, no. like how does that add to the trust and credibility to activate people, right? Like I think it's again
Right.
really important about getting the information, it's building the right processes and the tools there and understanding how that moves the needle for our customers.
Yeah. I think there's a whole world right now where everybody's like, hey, I'm doing AI and everything. And I think the people who were early on quickly realized, oh, AI is amazing when you put it in the right spot. It's not the answer to everything. It's not everything's a nail that the AI hammer should hit. But when you do have a nail, it crushes that nail when you
Yeah,
use
exactly.
AI hammer. Um,
Yeah.
so
And like
then,
sheer research, like I'll just give you like the sheer volume of research how we do and the information we gather leveraging AI. Like it's hilariously scary of like the fact that you can just search something and get a pretty good starting point answer of like you don't need a 2 or 3 year entry level consultant doing this anymore. You can just leverage AI for that. You have to still fact check it and also just be able to have like again some form of review process, human loop. Yes, but that's what it's always been.
yes,
Like as a consulting, as a partner in consulting, I have managers and my managers have teams, and that's how it's always worked. But now we can really just have that layer built into it where people can natively build in the AI enabled world. We have access to so much more, and it just saves so much more time in our model and the leverage that we can.
that's awesome. How do you see AI disrupting the security tool space? Obviously, it's every vendor is saying they've got AI, but what do you think are going to be the impacts on the solution side?
Yeah, it's I have like, I'm very excited about seeing what happens. I don't think I can claim to know the answer to this, but if it's what I generally have the sense of in AI, I think it's really around identifying use cases where there's a there's a place where 98% is good enough. And that's where I think AI has the best value, where you don't need to be 100% confident, but you need 98% confidence. And we can solve for the remaining 2% with, again, human in the loop work. So, I think the SOC analyst role is a good area because, hey, if I can get 98% there and I'm willing to accept a 2%, false negative, which is far better than the human version of it anyway. Like in
Right.
human stocks and having, I led, our cyber operations kind of governance practice. So like metrics are my thing. But like in human stocks, as we've had them, you're looking at 10 to 25% false negatives. Well, oh, why didn't we catch it? We didn't know. Like that's the world.
Yeah.
So you get the 98% there, that's amazing. That's truly amazing. And
Yeah.
then believe that Sam Altman and OpenAI are going down the right direction and they're making it better. So, I think they're gonna close that 98 down to 99 and everything else.
Yeah. One of the places I think it's going to drive change, and I'm curious about your perspective on this, is AI is always better with more data. And that we go back to that monolith
Better with
conversation. I think
better,
AI
better with better data, not
with
better
better
with,
data, that's
yeah.
fair. Um, I think that's where the monoliths have an advantage, though, in an AI world. Like we've all talked about it. You go do an incident response in Microsoft, and that what it can show you is just incredible. This is where the email came in. They clicked on it at this time. Their endpoint saw it connect to this IP. The payload got downloaded, and you can break out the entire attack chain in one UI.
Yeah.
And I think AI being able to do those sort of things is going to be more valuable to the monoliths where they have more data points to look at. You'll talk about that 98% false positive. If you only got one data point, you only have firewall data, you got nothing. If you only have email data, you got nothing. But if you got firewall, email, endpoint, identity, all these other layers, SASE, whatever the layers are, you just have such a running head start on giving AI the data to do things for you.
Yeah.
I think, it's funny, Nathan, is that's where I think we're running into a big, I guess, bubble is, now you have to get all your stuff talking to each other. So the application integration in this space is starting to kind of take off for us because we have that team and it's, then they start, and Microsoft's doing Fabric and all this other stuff. I mean, it's coming. It's like a whole big,
Yes.
everything talking to each other. Then obviously the next, generation 2 of AI is really going to hit hard. But
Yeah.
here's a funny thing, Ken, I have to ask, because Nathan and I had this talk months ago. How do you think AI is going to affect the I guess bad actors / attacks as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the really like unique factors of cybersecurity. It's adversarial in nature, right? Like you're dealing with kind of
Right.
two sides, and that's what makes the problem space we work with so unique. And you have to just kind of be able to always like learn and adapt there. Um, like from my career experience of it, of seeing how ransomware has evolved and having worked on some of the largest ransomware cases, quite literally in the history. Um, it started off as more activist hacking, right? Of like, oh, hey, I'm gonna like do this, like, and maybe make a buck or two out of the way. And then it became a business. So I think that
Yes.
driver,
Full fledged.
behind threat actors and the way they run things, like they're leveraging the same tools and they have the same incentives as any startup does, to use the greatest tools to achieve the greatest leverage and to make the most money. Again, it's kind of human nature in a sense. So I actually have a bit of a, empathy for it of like, they're just trying to make a living. They're just trying to make and create a business as well. And it's just, the hustle behind it. So I think it's going to push and kind of, make things more scalable for the attackers, which is,
Right.
something that the at the enterprise level, when we're talking about data stuff, tie into the earlier topic there, like I think the enterprises are well equipped to deal with that. But what do the small medium businesses do, right? Like how do they, afford the level of like data visibility, quantity, as well as the latest and greatest tools to do it? It's a really tough problem that, again, I think we're all part of this mission to solve through, building new tools, finding ways to do it more efficiently. And again, for me, it's the marketplace and being able to, again, make the business problems simplifying the business, finding the answers to this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see you have your cats. I See the chats
Yeah,
up
yeah.
there?
This one, her name's Hot, and she's very much a very
Yeah.
friendly lab cat, and sometimes joins me in meetings. Um, but yeah, I mean,
There's one
just
behind you. There might be one behind you too.
is there one behind me? No.
Might have been. I don't can't.
uh, yeah, the other one
It's like,
around a little bit. I would hope not. Yeah. Um, yeah. The industry's evolved and continues to evolve. That's again like one of the reasons why I think it's a natural progression too of like, hey, security needs to become more efficient in order to scale better. And we also need,
Yes.
I think there's geopolitical considerations too, right? Like, so my family is actually from Taiwan, and again, I've been in a lot of like enterprise rooms where the topic is around, hey, we have operations in, other nations where there's a potential threat. How do we kind of manage that risk, from a people layer, from a technology perspective, and also from a tooling
Mm.
perspective? So I think there's a lot to unravel there and a lot more that we can all do down the line. And it's even like cooperative in many senses geopolitically too for privacy, for example. How can you,
right.
again, ensure rights of people as well as value and, getting into the politics side of, yeah, like I think data has a ton of value. That's what people are, all about the data.
So true.
Yeah, I think your comment about it's evolving. I think AI is that's my favorite word for it. It's an accelerator. You need to
Mhm.
go, like you said, go analyze, a tool set, on the internet. That AI does it so quick. You could have somebody go do it in 3 or 4 days or in a 10-minute prompt, right? Or you need to convert a 50-page technical document into PowerPoint. And Copilot will do that in 3 minutes, and it's brilliant. It's amazing. It accelerates things. But I think um, in a cybersecurity world that was already moving quickly and evolving quickly, I think AI is just jet fuel on top of it. It's just taking it to the next stage. And I think it's challenging because we used to be able to get up to speed as technology practitioners. As things change, we could evolve. I think there's times where the cybersecurity space is moving quicker than we can naturally keep up with. It's just such a
We lost
Oh
Nathan.
no.
Yeah, but I was like, on the edge of my seat, ready to kind of like chime in a little bit too.
Yeah, go
But
for it.
with the AI component too, like I agree it's an accelerant to it, but like I'll elaborate on where I see some of the drawbacks right now as well. So it's like this, like as I described, like AI helps me have the scale of having an infinite army of entry level consultants, people that like have looked at stuff but probably don't have enough context in some sense to exactly prioritize or exactly kind of rationalize. And that's not what the AI model does, right? It's an LLM. It's looking at word. So that's essentially
Right.
what a procurement analyst does for us as well. So I would not take the first year analyst stuff and put it in front of any customer, right? As a good consultant, I would have like my team or myself, in whatever context I would be reviewing. And so that's where the human in the loop part is still really, really important to how we leverage the AI tools. And I do believe the models will evolve, and this whole direction towards like AI agents as well as uh, the RAG model of like retrieval of data and being able to augment the data sets. And again, like I said, it's better data. I don't think it's necessarily more data. That's kind of the key in order to unlock and be able to like really scale it to that next degree, and then ultimately get to this AI nirvana. I've heard so much about.
It makes my life easier. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I love it. So I was showing a customer the other day what it does, and we literally took a picture of like a crazy math problem that was like huge, a picture, mind you, not even like it was like the equations all in. I'm not a mathematician, but it solved it for him and did like a 3-page like printout of what the solution
Wow.
was. It was insane. So and the what it can do is I think just starting, but I
Mhm.
agree. I think that
Mhm.
AI is really going to change the game, but using it in security and then how it's going to come in the security realm, it's going to just play like a whole different piece in our lives nowadays. I found
Yeah.
myself now. Here's a question I have to ask you guys: do you still use Google? Are you starting to use AI? to ask questions?
I mean, I can answer. Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it.
I mean, I still use Google, yes.
Yeah.
But it's also just like you find things closer to where you want to find things, right? Like, so for example, I will go to like, I'll go to like Google Maps to find restaurant reviews now, interestingly enough. Like, I'm just like using that to read the
Yeah.
reviews as opposed to like, because I know the incentives of Yelp, that's a little bit crazy. So I go to where I want the information now and like keep it more local. I might search on YouTube instead, which again, another Google product, so kudos to them. But like, if I want to know how to do something, it's like I might as well just find the video with the most views as opposed to trying to like read through the first 10 articles and then get all the ads. Or Reddit.
Nathan, Reddit. Nathan, what do you think?
I'm enjoying the fact that Google now has AI results at the top. I find them helpful. And so I think that's starting to change mine because my habit is just to go to Google, right? So I still Google a lot. Now, more contextually in the Microsoft world, I still have the habit of clicking on the Outlook search bar. And I want Microsoft to switch that to open up the Copilot chat because Copilot chat's so much better, but I have this muscle and habit memory of just going straight to the search bar. So I love the results you get from AI when you can leverage it.
So just let you know, I think that I'm starting to shift big time because even I have a Pixel, right? I'm a Google guy, and that's fine. I live in that world. But Gemini is their tool. I don't even Google stuff anymore. I think they're actually starting to disable some of that stuff, like ask Google. I use that, and honest to God, it pulls all the results from Google I'm going to get, but it does all the searching through the pages I want faster. And so it's almost like it searched 10 times, because we've been searching Google for years in our space of trying to figure stuff out. So the fact that it can help me get to answers quickly, I'm starting to use it and leverage it more. So at the end of the day, I'm almost wondering where the marketing is in this coming into play, because I'm going to start searching for this and searching for that. And I mean, it's going to be the next level, right? So
definitely, like, I'm not envious of Google's position, honestly, in this because, like, sure, they have to disrupt themselves in order to survive, right? Like, that's the big thing versus the guys. If we were going to throw out like one big wish about AI, it's, I think out of all of these like model training companies and model building companies, like the one that truly puts the money where their mouth is and creates the first like US, universal income fund of like, hey, every dollar I generate from AI, 50 cents of it goes to like giving back to America. That would be amazing. That's my big wish of like, hey, in that moment, I think you'll win over all of the voters and all of the constituents and, like just use it to create and like distribute things like that. But we should.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty capitalist out there.
You mentioned, how Google's having to kind of almost disrupt their own business. And it's true. Like they make most of their money still, like 80% of the revenue comes from ads and Google searches. And AI breaks that because I don't need to click on ads. AI goes and looks at the data for me. I think it's interesting because you see all this news about, the Department of Justice is going to break up Google for antitrust reasons. And I'm like, Google's already breaking itself up. AI is disrupting it. It's that ship has sailed. You guys don't have to do anything. They're going to have to really pivot to stay ahead of the tidal wave that's been unleashed. So I think it's wild to watch the impacts throughout industry.
So true. Yeah,
it is.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna start wrapping it up today. Ken, thank you so much for joining us on this lovely Friday. Hopefully it's nice out there in LA. No hurricanes for you, so that's good. No hurricanes here. Just want to say thank you. How can people, find out more about Ken? Where can they reach out? Just on your website or?
Yeah, reach out on the website or, my at is, Ken Yao at, just find me on LinkedIn, basically. I'm pretty responsive and just always here to help. It's really just the mission for all of us, right? Like, let's make this all better and help each other. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
What's your website?
Oh, the website is cyberse.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty engaged on LinkedIn of just like chatting with people and loving to see the new, thought leadership and content from folks.
Okay. And I'll definitely try. I'll put your website on just
Yeah.
on our description, just in case to make sure the spelling. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Brandon. Yeah. Thanks so much,
Nathan, you
Nate.
got anything else?
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Great stuff.
It was. All right. Yeah. Talk to you
Ken,
soon.
once again, thank you so much. Appreciate you. And
All right,
don't
Brandon.
forget to all our listeners. We'll finish it off here. I know Ken left. To all our listeners, hey, thank you so much for listening. And I know that there's just so much out there, but don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment when you can. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate the comments. Big shout out to Brian,
Yeah.
my buddy Brian. He commented and actually triggered a conversation that was really good. So we love hearing comments. We are on LinkedIn. So if you want to hit us up on LinkedIn and just like and share and throw some comments, it's really great to know who's listening, and appreciate all of you kind of reaching out directly, letting us know you're enjoying it. So good stuff. Thanks, Brandon.
No worries, man. And also, when we do this, we do the live stream, so it's kind of it's rough, but we will obviously post our stuff at the podcast at a later date, and it has just a lot more a lot better quality you can kind of subscribe to. So don't forget that. Have a great weekend, man, and then I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you, everyone.